All corporate greed, the resulting climate chaos, toxic chemicals, and tons of waste haven't gone anywhere. But neither have we. Even in the midst of so much collective trauma and uncertainty, one of the things that keeps me going personally is getting to be in community with all of you, organizing, dreaming, and fighting for a more sustainable world. And the good news is that progress is happening. Just this year, Clean Water Action, our brilliant partners, and you can claim some important victories. In the beginning of August, the Massachusetts House passed a measure requiring the state to take environmental justice principles into account when deciding whether to approve projects and conduct meaningful public input processes that are accessible to people in environmental justice communities. Similarly, Clean Water Action pushed the Department of Environmental Protection hard on their solid waste master plan. We said that their first public period process wasn't good enough and that they needed to do it again, this time focusing on making the hearings accessible to those in environmental justice communities and hearing and centering their input as the people who will be most affected by where our trash is dumped, buried, and incinerated. And they listened. A second comment period was announced and open until September 15th, and we're going to be working to make sure that DEP listens to what was said by our incredible EJ partners leading the way to transforming our waste system into something truly sustainable and just. And 2 weeks ago, DEP also released a new drinking water standard for 6 PFAS forever chemicals, the same ones that we're still fighting to get banned from food packaging through the Massachusetts State House, and that you'll hear about a little later in our program. In direct response to our organizing and work with our colleagues, the rule is one of the strictest in the nation, includes automatic review of the rule every 3 years, which disrupts the pattern of the chemical industry being able to constantly stay one step ahead in terms of science and lobbying power available to challenge health protective actions that would eventually hold them responsible for cleaning up the mess they made. There is also a language translation requirement for reporting potential contamination in environmental justice communities. And there's so much more I could tell you about the work that we do every day. But this isn't about one organization. It's about a collective movement of people who are stronger when we work together. Today, we'll be spotlighting incredible leaders who represent community action and responsive, responsible government, and celebrating the work they've been able to accomplish this year in the midst of so much stress and confusion. I hope you leave this event inspired and that you feel proud of the work that we continue to accomplish together. The fun is in the fight because we're fighting together. Before I turn it over to our next speaker, I'd like to take a moment to appreciate some legislators that have joined us today. We have Representative Jim Hawkins, um, Michelle Dubois, Sal Domenico, Adrian Madaro, and I am looking through now. Representative Miranda, welcome, thank you. And of course, Attorney General Maura Healey, thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll continue thanking folks as they trickle in. With that, I would like to hand it over to our New England Regional Director, Cindy Lupi, who will be introducing our keynote speaker, Attorney General Maura Healey.
Greetings, everyone. So great to have you with us. I am thrilled for the next section of our event because the people's lawyer, Attorney General Maura Healey, is on deck as our keynote speaker. Clean Water Action and our allies in the Green Justice Coalition believe that we can't achieve true environmental justice in isolation. Our frame must carefully weave together strands of environmental, economic, and racial justice to address the complex root causes of the problems that we face on the ground every day. And Massachusetts is just incredibly fortunate that Attorney General Healey shares this perspective and grounds the work of her entire team in the space, whether it is going after asbestos pollution and worker health and safety, or in fighting the near constant barrage of attempted rollbacks of public health and environmental safeguards pushed by the Trump administration every day, or in holding the fossil fuel industry accountable for their distortion and lies about climate science. Her worldview is very clear and it shows up in the work that she does every day. And we want to particularly recognize her leadership in sounding the call for environmental justice reforms as part of our response to the COVID crisis. Her involvement is clearly a major reason why the House of Representatives voted unanimously in July along with the incredible leadership of so many of the legislators on this call, to support the environmental justice bill. And we deeply appreciate the role that she and all the champs in the House have played on this issue. So without any further ado, let me introduce Attorney General Maura Healey.
Hey, thanks, Cindy. It's great to be with you. Thank you, Mario, and the entire team at CWA. You guys are fantastic, and we love working with you. You've had a terrific year, at Clean Water Action. I know your work has been so successful, and it's so vital. I think about everything from your efforts to promote clean energy and energy efficiency, to protecting our EJ neighborhoods, to taking action against those who pollute our wetlands and waterways, and yes, sound the alarm about the dangers of PFAS contamination. There's just no organization more equipped or more energized out on these fights than Clean Water Action. So thank you for everything that you do. And with me today are the real movers and shakers and drivers behind the work out of our office. I know you're familiar with them all. Rebecca Tepper, Chief of our Energy Division, Christophe Courchain, Chief of our Environmental Protection Division, and Melissa Hoffer, Chief of our Energy and Environment Bureau. Great colleagues, great leaders, and they've got a lot of people working with them, working really hard on so many fronts. So I just want to really credit my team for their time and their energy and the incredible foresight they've had from day one to not only make this a top priority, but find out ways to really be out there on this in partnership with you, in partnership with our friends in the legislature. Congratulations to all of today's award recipients, who I know you'll hear from later, and especially my colleagues in government who are here, who are awarded recognition tonight. My Senator Sal DiDomenico, Representative Dubois, Representative Miranda, and Representative Madaro. Congratulations to all of you, and thank you for your good work next door. So, back to my team, one thing I'm always reminded of by them is how lucky we are here in Massachusetts to have this incredible foundation of environmental champions and grassroots activists and advocates. And we're very lucky to have a longstanding partnership with CWA that has become more important now than ever before. So today we celebrate all that you've accomplished, which is a lot. And today and tomorrow and every day forward, we're going to keep fighting for clean water, clean air, and healthy communities, because we know what works. I did want to spend a little bit of time talking about an issue that has been greatly exacerbated by the COVID-19 crisis. It was there. I think people are seeing it in a new way as a result of COVID, which has revealed so much about systemic racism and the systemic inequities that persist in society across so many different realms. The fact of the matter is the public health crisis is much more deadly to Black, Brown, Indigenous, and immigrant communities. That's a fact. And those same disparities have already made the effects of climate change so much worse. Back in May, my office, and again, I appreciate the leadership and initiative of Melissa Hoffer and her team, they went out and published a report that detailed some of these disparate impacts of COVID in Massachusetts. Massachusetts today ranks 6th in the country for total COVID deaths, 6th in the country. We've lost coming up on 10,000 lives, we're just over 9,000 lives to this pandemic. Families are still very much reeling from the devastating impacts of this pandemic, but none have been hit harder than communities of color, where there has been a public health crisis already to begin with. Dr. John Levy of BU's School of Public Health analyzed data that my office collected. We actually collected it from our local police chiefs who had the information that was available to us that was very, very helpful, actually, that showed statistics community by community of COVID infections. And the data showed that communities of color had the highest rates of COVID infection across the state. In April, there was a follow-up report issued by researchers at Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, and that report linked long-term particulate matter, air pollution, and COVID-19 death rates. And that's the type of air pollution that so many of our EJ communities are struggling with, whether it's from highways or power plants or a concentration of industrial facilities in their neighborhoods. This stuff is real. And we know that there are other factors as well. Public transit may be the only travel option for many people in these communities. Many are essential workers. Many are living in situations that may not be conducive to social distancing, where social distancing isn't even possible. There may be language barriers, and there's already lack of access to healthcare and a greater likelihood of having a serious chronic medical condition. So these disparities, which really are social determinants of health, are the predictable endpoint of decades of policy choices that incentivize economic, housing, and environmental injustice. So I think we all on this call and gathered today know that, but I think it was important to put that out there, and that we be talking about it, and that we be talking about it and demanding solutions. So here's what we came up with in terms of recommendations. First, we need to stop the Trump administration's rollbacks that have placed public health at greater risk and have given the fossil fuel industry a free pass to pollute. Since the EPA has refused to act, which is sad to me. My own dad was chief of water supply for Region 1 of the EPA for many years. What we've seen over the last 4 has been horrific in terms of the conduct of EPA and the president. Many are working hard within EPA, but the fact of the matter is their leadership has been controlled and taken over by the fossil fuel industry. So we've stepped up our enforcement of laws, prioritizing our cases, particularly in environmental justice communities, and we need to continue to do that. Second, speaking of those communities, we need to strengthen requirements to protect those communities and vulnerable neighborhoods. This means better air quality monitoring, better health data and transparency about that, and a better process for regulatory permitting and siting decisions. Too often we know that some of those regulatory permits are issued and siting decisions are made without adequate input from the communities most affected by those decisions. And we got to work to change that and empower those communities and make available a channel, a way of ready communication about this. No one has a greater stake in those decisions than the people who live there. Third, we need to invest in clean energy. I talked about this for a long time. Rebecca and the team have been out on this for a long, long time. We know that clean energy is good for consumers, the climate, public health, the economy. Now, we have lost some clean energy jobs in the COVID economic downturn, that's true. But instead of bailing out the fracking industry, we need to reverse that trend as quickly as possible and get people back to work with good paying jobs, worker training and education, so that we have workers there to meet the necessary moment of our clean energy economy and growing that. So we've lost some momentum, but the fact is this has happened at the precise moment when we can't afford to lose any time in our effort to shift to clean energy and protect our climate. So this means to me that we need to be having a very different kind of conversation that really I'm excited about now. And I know there are a lot of you on this call who have worked hard in this area and think a lot about these issues, but the conversation we need to have is the one we're having now that recognizes the relationship between health and climate and racial justice and equity, and approaches problem solving through that lens. So that means we really got to pick up the pace in our fight on climate change. I mean, the forest fires raging on the West Coast, the hurricanes battering the Gulf Coast. Polluted air is around us, destroying and devastating communities of color. We're in the midst of a climate crisis that affects all of us. And this COVID pandemic has given us a preview of what's in store for us, especially for our most vulnerable communities, if we don't pick up the pace. And that means transitioning away from fossil fuels, of course. I mean, thankfully, Massachusetts is leading among the states and in our region through the clean energy transformation our future generations absolutely need. Back in June, we filed a petition with the Department of Public Utilities calling for an investigation into the future of the natural gas industry in Massachusetts. And I think that's important because, as we've seen from our study and work on some of the pipelines, it's really important to know what the need is actually out there rather than what the desire is of big pipeline companies to come in and construct things, particularly on the backs of ratepayers, which we also kept them from doing. But we went to the DPU because this is a serious thing. We need to look at what's happening within this industry and what that means for our state. Other states like New York and California are doing the same thing, which is about trying to more proactively manage our necessary transition away from natural gas. So we got to start this planning now. We also got to do it so that our low-income ratepayers don't get stuck footing the bill for an outdated gas distribution system. Well, wealthier ratepayers can afford to electrify with things like air source heat pumps and the like. So we really got to think about the equities there. And it also means thinking about how we take care of our workers so no worker gets left behind in this clean energy transition. So invest in clean energy jobs, electrify our transportation and building sectors, strengthen requirements to protect our environmental justice communities. Now is the time to act. With so much having been disrupted and destroyed and broken down and frayed, we're about this process of building anew in better and different ways that rid us of the disparities and inequities that persist. And this is a great opportunity amidst all of the devastation. It certainly is the opportunity, and this is the moment. So, I can't look in terms of where we've been. I hope that in time we're in a place where we have a different administration in the sense that we need an administration that respects science, that adheres to science, is guided by science, and doesn't run and deny science. We have all paid such an incredible price for that. As you know, the last 4 years have been busy, and we've been fighting efforts to interfere with what is so absolutely necessary to the health and well-being of our communities and our country and our planet. I think this month marked our office's 200th action against the Trump administration for its illegal environmental attacks and rollbacks. Imagine that, right? Over 200 actions we've taken against the Trump administration for environmental actions, misconduct, rollbacks alone. That's amazing. So, we've been fighting hard for federal environmental laws and rules that are there to protect us, including clean car standards, limits on methane emissions from the oil and gas industry, and carbon and mercury pollution from coal-fired power plants. And we've won some major victories in upholding and keeping in place those important protections. But we know that others have been there as well, and no greater example than CWA, so hard at work combating PFAS contamination in our communities. And we've been advocating as an office at the federal level with other states for stronger regulation of PFAS to protect public health. And we need Congress to step in and help. We know that these toxic chemicals are putting the health of our firefighters and our military personnel and our families in Massachusetts and across the country at great risk. So look, we're going to continue to hold the line to keep the current administration from attempting to dismantle the progress made. Too much is at stake. but today is a day of celebration, and just keep up the great work that everyone is doing, both through CWA and others, through their jobs and pursuits. We know what this is about. We have shared values here. We know how important this fight is. So there's a lot to celebrate and a lot more to do. But I think we've seen that this is the moment, and this is where our young people in particular are demanding that we go. And I'm confident that together we'll rise to meet the challenge. So my best to all of you, and congratulations to tonight's award winners.
Thank you so much, Attorney General. Thank you for your inspiring words, and thank you so much for your work. You're right, the time is absolutely now, and your office is taking on some really huge issues. And what we can do is continue to organize to make sure that the Massachusetts community members are mobilized to work alongside you as well. Before we move on with our program, I'd like to invite us all to actually play a short game. It's a one-word association game, and you can type your answers in the chat. So the question is, in one word, how are you feeling about this world or this movement? Don't hold back. So these are scary times, right? And it's okay if your answers are both positive, negative, a complex mix of the two. You can add as many one-word answers as you'd like. And what we're going to do is we're going to watch these answers show up in real time as a visual representation of the thoughts, feelings, and themes that are present in the room today, as well as the movement at large. And we've already got some words: desperate, terrified, nervous, depressed, scared. Yes, all of those things, absolutely. Opportunity, okay, seeing some other words pop up. Anxious, I am consistently anxious. I so relate to that. Awesome. Great. So I want us all to keep these snapshots in our heads as the program continues. What I'm hoping this does is that it serves as a visual representation of a truth we keep in mind in organizing, which is the more an idea, a feeling, or a commitment is shared, the bigger and more unstoppable that it is. And we're going to play this a game at the end, and we're going to see how things shift when we spend time working together in community. And now I have the honor of introducing our first award recipient of the evening, Fidel Maltez. Fidel is the commissioner of the Chelsea Department of Public Works, and he, along with Chelsea Green Roots, were instrumental in launching one of our first lead in drinking water campaigns in Massachusetts. By now, we all know that lead is a dangerous contaminant that impacts multiple systems in the body, and that it's especially dangerous for children and women who are pregnant. And like so many other environmental toxins, young children of color continue to show blood lead levels higher than their white peers. Lead service lines are the greatest source of lead in drinking water, and they just need to go. Cities like Chelsea, under Fidel's leadership, are making sure that that happens by covering the full cost of replacement for lead service lines and making sure that through community outreach, partnership, and language access, that anyone can have access to a lead-free water line, regardless of race, income, renter status, or citizenship. I've had the honor of working closely with Fidel over the past few years, and what I can say is that his commitment to his community is matched only by his work ethic, openness to collaboration, and creative thinking. So Fidel, thank you so much for your work, and please enjoy the Civil Leadership Award.
Thank you for this award. This award is really for the people of Chelsea, our entire administration, and in particular, the men and women of the Department of Public Works. As you said, Mario, we all know the negative effects of lead in drinking water, particularly on children. Here in Chelsea, we have made a concerted effort to remove lead from our drinking water. This work has been a collaborative effort with Clean Water Action, Green Roots, the MWRA, and most importantly, our residents. Since 2017, we have removed lead wherever we find it, regardless of ownership or responsibility. Since then, we have removed lead services for over 400 homes in Chelsea. We owe it to our residents and our children to continue our efforts to remove lead from our drinking water. We urge other communities and municipalities to also take on this fight. And I know that Clean Water Action would be here to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Filal. That was exciting for me. I hadn't gotten the last update. Over 400 homes. That's really incredible. Thank you again. Up next, we have our Massachusetts State Director, Elizabeth Saunders, introducing our next legislative champions.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Mareo. I am so thrilled to get to introduce the next award. Every year, Clean Water Action recognizes leaders in the State House who are fighting hard for our environment, our health, and for justice. And we recognize them with the Clean Water Legislative Champion Award. So this year's award presentation is going to be a team effort because the campaign that it is celebrating is also truly a team effort. As Mareo mentioned earlier, one of the big advances for our movement this year was that the Massachusetts House passed an important environmental justice policy, and there's been a strong effort in the Senate as well. Clean Water Action is proud to be part of the Massachusetts Environmental Justice Legislative Table, which has been leading that effort. And we have two of the state's leading environmental justice advocates with us today who have been spearheading that campaign. So I'm going to hand this over to Maria Belen Power from Green Roots and Andrea Nemeche from Neighbor to Neighbor to tell you more about the campaign and the awardees.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Hi, everyone. My name is Maria Belen, and I'm the Associate Executive Director of Green Roots. We organize for environmental justice in Chelsea and East Boston and have been doing so for over 25 years. And so between Andrea and I and many other partners, we have worked really hard, especially with our legislators this session. And we believe that this is really a historic moment. And with the context of COVID-19, racial inequities, and all of the dialogues happening across the country and across the world, and the impact that we've seen on public health and quality of life in communities like Chelsea and across the state, that really this is the time, and the time is now. And if not now, we really don't know when it would happen. And so we are extremely grateful to our legislators. And this is really important for communities like Chelsea and East Boston. We are currently fighting an electrical substation on the banks of the Chelsea Creek. This is precisely the type of infrastructure that should not be sited in communities of color, in low-income communities, and in communities where folks don't speak English and cannot engage in a process. And so this is really gets to the heart of our work. And we are really proud to be working with Senator Sally Domenico, who represents Chelsea and other communities as well, with Representative Liz Miranda, with Representative Adrian Madro, who represents East Boston, another one of our communities, and Representative Michelle Dubois. So I'm just gonna hand it over to Andrea, who has been working really hard alongside with me at Green Roots and others at the EJ legislative table.
Thanks, Elizabeth, and thanks, Maria Belen. I'm Andrea Nemeche. Am I unmuted? Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks, Elizabeth and Maria Belen. So I'm Andrea Nemeche, and I'm the co-executive director at Neighbor to Neighbor, and we are a multi-issue grassroots power building organization. And like Maria Belen said, the time to move forward with EJ is definitely now. And it's an important issue that has been impacting what we call internally at Neighbor to Neighbor, the new majority, our Black, Indigenous, people of color, immigrants, LGBTQ community, and the working class. And in our cities of Lynn, Worcester, Springfield, and Holyoke, our members are seeing environmental injustices each day and feel it through the public health impacts that happen through asthma, and having Springfield being the asthma capital in the nation. And as Attorney General Maura Healey said earlier, that all of this is real, and the impacts and the lived experiences of our folks in the new majority are very real in this time. And so for us, EJ means a shift and a recognition that our communities have been sacrifice zones for pollution and environmental degradation and the siting of polluting facilities, and many other issues. And it also means having a greater ability for our communities to engage in decision-making processes around our environment, like Maria Belen said. So it has been truly an honor and such a long journey. I think we came together and started the table in 2019. Time flies by. Working with such amazing and strong legislative sponsors who really hold environmental justice and the issue close at heart. And so I just want to say a big thank you to you all legislative sponsors for continuing to move on the issue and putting in the work internally inside the state legislature to get EJ all the way through. And so there is still, of course, more work to be done, but I'm very glad to have you all by our sides leading in the fight.
Thank you, Maria Belen and Andrea. As I mentioned, this is a team effort, so we're going to add to this little presentation team right here. Also here to help us present this award is someone that could actually be receiving the award himself, because he is the sponsor of the Environmental Justice Bill in the Senate and a real leader in this effort as well. In fact, the only reason he's not receiving the award today is because he's led on so many issues that he has already previously received the Clean Water Action Legislative Champion Award in at least one, if not more, previous years for his great work. And so we do like to spread the clean water love around. But with that, I will welcome to the screen instead of the stage and hand it over to Senator Jamie Eldridge.
Great, thanks so much, Elizabeth. And always love attending the Clean Water Action annual fundraiser. Sorry we can't do it in person, but thank you for inviting me and your kind words. And I so appreciate Clean Water Action's leadership on so many issues that we work on closely together. And I just wanted to be here to congratulate my colleagues who are receiving legislator award today. On the House side, Representative Adrian Modero, Representative Liz Miranda, Representative Michelle Dubois, and my friend and colleague on the Senate side, Senator Sal DiDomenico. Andrea and Maria Belen spoke very powerfully about the environmental justice coalition that's come together over the past 2 years, and that it was so critical to moving this bill to a higher priority in the House and Senate. And really that also wouldn't have happened without my colleagues who I mentioned. Championing this legislation, having EJ communities in their district, telling those stories really had an impact on all of our colleagues to get this bill passed as an amendment to the House Clean Energy Bill, which I think many of us thought would be a very difficult lift. So that is incredibly exciting. And I know that Senator DiDomenico and I are working hard to convince the Senate conferees to agree to that language in the final clean energy bill. So just want to congratulate my colleagues. The progress that EJ has made just over the past 2 years is amazing. It would not have happened without the coalition and without my colleagues who are getting awarded today. So congratulations, and just so honored to say a few words today. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Senator Eldridge. So with that, it is my honor to present Clean Water Action's Legislative Champion Award to Senator Sal DiDomenico, Representative Adrian Modero, Representative Liz Miranda, and Representative Michelle Dubois for your commitment and effective leadership to advance the goals of environmental justice in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I will just add that we do intend to present you with actual awards at some point, but you'll have to take our word for it today. But at the moment, we'd like to invite each of you to take a minute to respond. We'll have Senator DiDomenico go first, and then Representative Modero, who I will add is celebrating his anniversary today. Thank you. Happy anniversary. On the way to anniversary dinner, perhaps at the moment. And Representative Miranda and Representative Dubois. So we'll kind of go in that order. So Senator DiDomenico.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And I want to thank Maria and Andrea and the whole coalition, really. And I do want to thank Senator Jamie Eldridge as well, because he really, this award could probably be named after him for all the work that he's been doing in the Senate for many, many years on not just EJ, but so many causes and environmental issues that near and dear to our hearts. I also want to thank my colleagues who are getting this award as well, Representatives Modero, Dubois, and Miranda, and a special congratulations to Fidel, my friend from Chelsea as well. This is a Chelsea celebration as part of this celebration. But this is a very, very important award, an important issue, And in light of what's happening around us, not just here locally, but nationally as well. I don't want to make this too political of an argument, but obviously we started a debate last night that climate change is not even on the forefront of the national leaders who are in the White House right now in terms of not even having a plan and mostly of all, not even believing in it. So we can take action locally at the state level and our city levels to make real lasting change for our communities. And Clean Water Action has been at the forefront of doing that so many years. Environmental justice, as you know, I represent the cities of Chelsea and Everett, which are really, as the Attorney General said, the inequities that existed prior to COVID, long before COVID. And we have been fighting this battle with Green Roots and all of our friends over in Chelsea for many, many years. So thank you very much to Clean Water Action for all that you have done. This is important work in light of what's happening around us, but more so for the future of our country, for our children, for our communities. And when we look at organizations who are in the forefront of making sure that we have lasting impact for the next generation this is the one. And I want to give a special shout out to our young people today who are on the front lines fighting for climate change and fighting for environmental justice across the country and really leading the argument, leading the charge. And because of their action, because of their advocacy and their energy and how much they have put into this, we have seen climate change become a national issue because of all their work. So thank you very much to all of them as well.
Thank you, Senator DiDomenico. And I'd like to hand it over to Representative Madero.
Thank you, Elizabeth. It is wonderful to see you all virtually. I want to apologize that I'm doing this from my cell phone and from a car. But Elizabeth mentioned today is my 3rd wedding anniversary, and my wife and I are en route to the Berkshires for a long weekend, our first trip away since all of COVID has happened. But I didn't want to miss the opportunity to be here today with the EJ family. And, I keep hearing the theme that this was a team effort, and truly it was. We have such a wonderful EJ roundtable at the State House. Our work is just beginning. And while my colleagues and I at the State House are taking these awards this afternoon, really, I have to say the majority of the credit, the lion's share of the credit goes to the advocates and the activists in the communities. Who for years and years and years have been beating the drum on environmental justice, trying to move these issues forward. Yes, we did get a historic win in the House. I believe it might have been the first EJ piece of legislation that either branch of the legislature has ever taken up, and that is very exciting. But certainly a lot more work to be done, not only to get that out of conference, but really I think we're just scratching the surface of what we need to do on environmental justice. And I do want to share that this issue is very personal, who for generations have been fighting the environmental injustices that we deal with, whether that be an ever-growing international airport or whether that be a misguided substation, which Maria Belen mentioned. And so, I can't tell you how grateful I am to receive this award, because it not only means a lot to me, but it means a lot to my family and the efforts that they have been putting in for so many years in East Boston. So very excited to be with you all, grateful for the recognition. Congratulations to my colleagues. And once again,
Representative Madero, I think we might be losing you. Oh, I think we're losing you, but thank you. And we'll wish you a happy anniversary and a great getaway in the Berkshires. All right. I think with that, we're going to... Oh dear. Okay. I think we're going to go ahead and hand this over to Representative Liz Miranda. Thank you all.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry, Adrian. Adrian, we cut you out. I love doing that all the time.
Look forward to
You still on?
This is a Zoom moment. He's muted, but it's still, the sound's still going.
So I'll try to talk, and I don't mean to talk over my great friend here, another city kid from Boston. I want to echo all my colleagues.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm
Adrian. I feel so bad.
Thank you.
We lost you there, Adrian. I was talking over you, so I apologize.
I am on. Sorry.
Good evening again, everyone. My name is Liz Miranda, and I am the baby of the crew, not in age, but in being a first-term legislator, and just want to echo the sentiments of my colleagues that have gone before me and will go after me, and saying what an honor this is. When I got in the State House, I didn't know what issues I would work on, but I came with 3 important things that came from my personal lived experience. And I really believe in power to the people and resident organizing because I, one, grew up in the Dudley Triangle where there is 2 movies and a book about the Don't Dump Us on Us campaign that many immigrant families and Southern Blacks that were moving to the community and Puerto Rican immigrants and folks, Puerto Rican citizens, and everyone was joining in fighting back a community that had been decimated by redlining, white flight, arson for profit. We had 1,400 parcels of vacant land. And this was a community that I get to legislate from today. I still live in my neighborhood, but just witnessing the fight of a people and who won eminent domain power over their land and started the Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative. Environmental justice work has always been in my blood because it was probably the first time in my childhood that I learned about the powerful H word, which is hope, and that there is possibility even in chaotic circumstances. And then the second thing was learning that the greatest correlation of toxicity was race. And third, fundamentally believing that there is no climate fight without the EJ fight. You can't just skip over communities and people who have been almost decimated. You know, we're really strong, we're resilient people that have to fight back against so much, not only just air pollution, but the work of Clean Water Action, other folks with lead in our soils, lead in our water, and that how that impacts us. So I just want to say thank you to Michelle Dubois, Rep, for inviting me to be part of this work. The work that she does in Brockton, Adrian does in Eastie, Senator DiDomenico does in his whole region, including Everett and Chelsea's important work because it's life or death work, right? And environmental justice is racial justice work. You know, often when I'm in circles, I'm one of the only brown people in the room and folks are just like, like, what is she doing here? And, I want to make it clear that the original environmental justice fighters were brown too. They were people who were indigenous to this land who tried their best to protect our Commonwealth. And we know what the history books have said and not said about what happened. But I just want to say thank you. It is such an honor. I was screaming at the top of my lungs when we passed that amendment, and thanks to the senator and the rep for passing that. I just felt so hopeful in that moment and wanted to give a win to the people who are in the communities, just wanting a win, wanting an opportunity to be seen and heard. And so thank you all for the work that you do. Consider me a partner in this work, even if I'm not in the State House. I hope I'm still here, but even in community, just knowing that I really value the work that each of you do day in and day out.
Thank you, Representative Miranda. And we'll hand it to Representative Dubois to close us out of this part of the program.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone at Clean Water Action, Senator DiDomenico and Eldridge, Rep Madero, and my sister, Rep Miranda, in this EJ work, as well as all of the folks that are watching and participating in the roundtable, the Green Justice Roundtable, Andrea, Maria, and all the work that Chelsea and Eastie and so many places across this state are taking on around environmental justice. And it's so true. Growing up in Brockton, it's a community of color. I really had the opportunity to understand the indignity that so many low income and people of color have to suffer in this specific way of environmental justice. So the environmental justice, the red inhaler is really what I see. And I'm using it a lot these last few months. It's been really tough. And that is a targeted thing. And it's a lot to do with redlining and valuing of human life and human health. And so we're in this fight together. I'm honored to be a partner with all of you. And I'm going to keep on going on, because really what got me into elected office is this injustice and this indignity of putting trash and pollution and dirting our air and not caring about our children and our health and we deserve justice. And just like Rep. Miranda said, it was people of color that led this and that are leading this. And we know that it was a person of color that first introduced environmental justice at the federal level. And we know that all across this nation, this battle is being fought by people of color and low-income people. And that's who I am, low-income person, scrapper. I'm here to fight. And I'm really so thankful that Rep. Madero was able to get that amendment through with all of our help. And I really hope we can get it across the finish line, because Massachusetts is #1 in so many ways. But we are kind of coming up the tail end on environmental justice. So we have a lot of work to do, and I'm willing to, roll up my sleeves and get right at it. So thank you so much. I really love Clean Water Action. Thank you for all you do, and thank you for this honor tonight and your partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Dubois, and thank you so much to all of our legislative champions. I also want to recognize another past legislative champion that joined us this evening, or this afternoon. Senator Cynthia Stone Cream has tuned in. So I think it goes without saying that we need more of all of you in the legislature, and Clean Water Action is going to continue to work to elect, endorse, and elect and endorse government officials who are going to exemplify the principles that you all stand for. So another plug for our program book, which has been posted in the chat, and we'll do that again. All of our 2020 legislative endorsements are in the program book, so we can elect more champions of environment and health and justice to the legislature. So we're now going to take a short break from the awards, and we have a real treat in store for you, a live performance from my absolute favorite local Boston musician, Muhammad Seven. In addition to being a dear friend of mine, so yes, I am biased, but he is somebody who truly fights for liberation through his music and in his life, and he presents the unvarnished truth about the oppression of the working class, people of color, and immigrants, while also simultaneously holding out hope that our love and our power will indeed create a different future. So I would like to invite to the screen Muhammad Seven, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. You asked for a brief bio, and I'm glad I didn't write it for you, because what you said about me was it's the nicest introduction I've ever gotten. Thank you. Well, hello, everybody. I am Muhammad Seven of the Dorchester band, Americana band Muhammad Seven in the Spring. So happy to be here. I've been a long time fan and friend of Clean Water Action. Thanks for having me. The song is called Welcome Every Breath. Well, first of all, how's my Dorchester? I hear somebody saying, that's right, Representative Liz Miranda. I'm your neighbor. So is my audio all right? My microphone the right level? Yes, good. I'm getting thumbs up. Thank you. Well, this song is called Welcome Every Breath. And it's a song about struggle and what it means to keep fighting even when it seems like you couldn't possibly win. Amidst the spruce and hay, I wrestled with a god and struggled hard to swallow down my fear. Zeus, to my dismay, broke me like a morning fog. He shuffled lively, grinning ear to ear. And as I lay there welling up in my pity and defeat, a little song escaped my tired lungs. Carry on, every dusk becomes a dawn. I welcome every breath with open arms. I could barely take the pain, crippled on the open range, with not a soul around to heed my call. So to the God I cried, man, you'll never take my pride. And he returned to put me down once and for all. He said, you're smaller than the smallest thing the planet's ever made. A molecule is twice the man you are. But carry on, every dusk becomes a dawn. I turn to face my death with open arms. As he raised his silver bolt to offer me my coup de grace, something flashed across his handsome face that seemed to give him pause. Looking deeply in my eyes, he saw that all the fear had gone. In the end, it's only love that makes us strong. And he couldn't bear to look for very long. Carry on, every dusk becomes a dawn. I welcome every breath with open arms. Thank you.
That was so beautiful. Thank you so much, Mohammed Seven. And now we are going to be moving on to our next awards, the John O'Connor Grassroots Award for Canvassing. Every year, we present awards to our community activists and canvassers who embody determination, commitment, and courage of a beloved activist in the Massachusetts environmental community, John O'Connor. Johnny O was a local and national treasure in the environmental health movement. He was one of a kind, a true trailblazer, founding the National Toxics Campaign in 1983 and helping to lead efforts to pass Superfund legislation. John was even a community organizer for a time with Clean Water Action. His unique spirit and his love of organizing and the canvassers who worked to build community power one person at a time were among his defining features. That spirit was on display with one of his favorite and frequent quotes, which has become one of our favorite and frequent quotes: "The fun is in the fight." John passed in 2001, but his legacy and spirit live on, and the leaders we honor in his name today are some of the people who carry that legacy and spirit on as well. One such person is Emily Geary, the recipient of our John O'Connor Grassroots Canvassing Award. Emily can't be here today, and you're going to find out why in just a moment. But before I do that, I want to emphasize how important our canvas is. And I was a canvasser once, so I'm a little bit biased, but not really. We believe that the environment is everyone's issue, and we back up that belief by knocking on every door, following up with people by phone and email to get them more involved as Clean Water members. The canvas is how we build our people power and hold politicians responsible for keeping our earth, air, and water clean. Usually this award goes to a field canvasser from either our Northampton or Providence offices, everyone's safe, which has made our phone canvas all the more critical for sustaining our organization and building our membership. And Emily Geary, who works in our Pittsburgh offices but calls our members in Massachusetts, has done invaluable work during this challenging time. In the words of her Canvas director, Karam Gokman, not only has Emily raised the most funds canvassing our members in Massachusetts, she has also demonstrated great leadership and professionalism this year, training not one, but 2 new managers for the Pittsburgh office, and she maintained a perfect attendance record this year, all while getting ready to deliver her 2nd newborn this autumn. Emily's maternity leave starts this week after the Massachusetts Zoom event, so it'd be a nice way to send her off too. And Emily's baby, it turns out, is also a go-getter and was actually born last week. So we're saying thank you, Emily, so much, and we hope you're enjoying this time with your brand new family member. Now I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to our health and climate advocate, Laura Spark, who's going to be delivering our John O'Connor Grassroots Leadership Award to this year's recipients.
Hi. I'm very pleased to present the next award to Ali Pinchmit and Jalen Rentis. Am I you can hear me? Ali Pinchmit is a documentary filmmaker and teacher who uses film as a tool for social change. Jalen Rentis is a high school senior in Holyoke with a particular interest in neuroscience. A couple of years ago, Ali Pinchmit heard that the endocrine disrupting chemical bisphenol A was in cash register receipts. She had an idea for a film and asked the Toxics Use Reduction Institute for a small grant. Now, with all the things there are to worry about in the world, it's often really hard to get people involved in and thinking about toxic chemicals, right? Toxic chemicals are invisible. They have long, complicated names. The science of how they cause harm can be confusing to understand. And unfortunately, chemical corporations are often putting out misinformation. Nevertheless, with just enough money to cover costs, Ali and Jalen produced a video which is really a model for public health communication. It's funny and accessible and explains in an unforgettable way what bisphenol A is and why you should actually care that it is in cash register receipts. Then Ali and Jalen did exactly the kind of intensive outreach that was needed to reach people in Holyoke who are most at reach. I will let them tell you a little bit more about that. But when Clean Water Action started our campaign to take action on PFAS in food packaging, PFAS, another class of chemicals, invisible, hard to pronounce, hard to understand, we reached out to Ali, who reached out to Jalen and asked them about creating another video. They took the ball and ran with it. So we're going to play a little clip of the PFAS video, and I'm also going to encourage everybody at some point after this event, please go Google the words "don't take that receipt" and watch their bisphenol A video, which is really quite hilarious. And you can't say that about most videos or documentaries about toxic chemicals, but it's great. So let's play the clip.
Waterproof, stain-proof, and non-stick. Many products have PFAS. PFAS are added to food packaging so it doesn't leak. But waterproof packaging can be made without PFAS, which is important because PFAS can be toxic in very tiny amounts. And this is where I give you the list of the bad things linked to PFAS.
We're being strict about social distancing because my mom has asthma.
Yeah, my brother does too.
Did you guys hear about the new vaccine trial?
Yeah.
I know. All you can think about these days is coronaviruses and COVID-19 that. But get this, PFAS can increase your risk of diseases like asthma that can make coronavirus even more of a threat. And PFAS suppress your immune system, so you can't fight off Things like coronavirus. People with more PFAS in their bodies form fewer antibodies in response to vaccines. It's literally reducing your fighting chance against an infection. Again, it's literally reducing your fighting chance against an infection. But it's even worse than this, folks.
We'll be rolling out the entire PFAS video over the course of the fall as we're trying to push the PFAS and food packaging bill forward at the end of session. And we are also looking to introduce even more comprehensive legislation, PFAS legislation next year. So we hope to be using this video even more over next year. So with that, Clean Water Action is pleased to present the John O'Connor Grassroots Leadership Award to Ali Pinchmit and Jalen Rentis for their creativity, humor, persistence, and vision in messaging and outreach on public health. Thank you.
All right, great, thank you. Well, my name's Ali Pinchmit and I'm the director of Don't Take That Receipt. Jalen, I think you might be muted.
It was like prioritizing you. Sorry. Okay. And my name is Jalen Rentis, and I am a youth outreach worker and a production assistant for Don't Take That Receipt.
So our organization, Don't Take That Receipt, has been a youth adult collaborative project that ran for the last 2 years in Holyoke, Massachusetts. And our mission has been to educate about toxic chemicals in a fun and engaging way.
And we've done this by making a short, funny video about toxic BPA in cash register receipts, and then another video about all the other products that are printed on thermal paper with bisphenols, like movie tickets, bus tickets, parking tickets, printed sticky labels on fast food and coffee cups, blood draw labels, and so much more. Our youth outreach workers, Kiara Gaston, Haley Enriquez, Camille Cruz, and myself, worked alongside our outreach manager, Dolly Colon Rivera, to canvass to nearly 400 stores, restaurants, libraries, a bunch of other things throughout Western Mass. We educated cashiers, store and restaurant managers, and owners about how to reduce their exposure to BPA and BPS by wearing gloves, folding receipts inside in, printing fewer receipts, and choosing phenol-free thermal papers.
And as Laura already mentioned, our most recent video project was made in partnership with Clean Water Action this past summer, and the video highlighted toxic PFAS chemicals in food packaging. And we're really proud to say that to date, our videos have been watched over 10,000 times, and that's not including the newest one because it hasn't really been released yet. If you would like to see more of our videos, you can check it out at don'ttakethatreceipt.org. And we want to say thank you so much to Clean Water Action for this award and recognition, and for so enthusiastically supporting our work for the last few years and collaborating with us this summer to raise awareness together about PFAS chemicals in a fun way. Thanks for all that you do.
Thank you so much, Ali and Jalen, for your work. And please do check out all of the videos. They're really well done. And it's so important to be able to get this information out in a way that's really engaging and accessible. Up next, we've got Mark Liu, the Director of Programs and Operations at the Chinese Progressive Association, and Alex Papali, Political Director for the Center for Economic Democracy, who will be delivering this year's Clean Water Action Changemakers Award. Before I hand it over, as you may know, before Alex was the political director of CED, he was a dear colleague and green justice organizer at Clean Water Action for 10 years. Alex, your work for green justice has been so important, and the movement is so lucky to have you. And we just wanted to say thank you, and we miss you.
Hey, thanks, Maria. It's great to see you and the team again. It's only been a couple of months, but I miss you all already. I have been staying in touch with the microgrid team, and I'll speak about that in a second. So we just had a meeting this morning, actually, but it feels like there's a lot of overlap, and I hope we'll continue to collaborate, in meaningful ways going forward. all of this work all needs to be connected, all of the great work being recognized tonight. Just by way of introduction, if people are not familiar with microgrids, they're basically local energy networks that connect a set of buildings and the people who live and work in them to each other so that they can stay up and running if the main power grid goes down. So, when there's storms and hurricanes and all that, you hear about hundreds of thousands of people at a time just getting knocked out, losing power. And this is a way to build resilience in communities. As we know, those kinds of catastrophes tend to almost always have much stronger impacts and much more disproportionate impacts in communities of color and lower income communities. What we saw in Puerto Rico with Hurricane Maria a few years ago, Katrina in New Orleans, and so on. And there's other reasons for microgrids as well. Obviously, increase. The microgrid project that we're talking about, the Run GJC project, is using clean energy, and it very much prioritizes local control of this critical resource, democratic governance, and so on. You'll hear a little bit more about it from Mark. But Clean Water began exploring microgrids several years ago, and I looked up our first communications with folks from the Run team was in August of 2016. So it's been 4 years and some change, and we began to think about how we could collaborate. The Run team provided a wealth of technical experience and expertise that we didn't have within the Green Justice Coalition that Clean Water is a member of. So we began to work with all the folks from the Run team, folks who are here today: Jen Stevenson Cepeda and Jeannie Ramey from Climbable, Dave Dayton from SESI, and Fran Cummings from Peregrine Energy. That work has continued nonstop. There's been a lot of volunteer work and so on, and we are on the cusp of building out this microgrid, this social resilience project that is going to be especially important when we're talking about how do we create social resilience for our communities. We're talking about economic justice and racial justice, environmental justice. This is an important component of what that looks like. So with that, I'll just turn over to Mark Liu from the Chinese Progressive Association to fill in details on CPA's role, their role within this project.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Clean Water Action. Happy to be here and actually be celebrating something which is really exciting during these times. And really happy to be honoring the Run Resilient Urban Neighborhoods team. And also shout out to Alex for bringing us all together in his work when he was with CWA. I think doesn't get enough credit for bringing together Green Justice Coalition and Run. And it's been a really fruitful and great collaboration. I mean, I think a lot of folks have talked about environmental justice issues already at this event. I think we're facing, a triple crisis right now. We obviously have the COVID-19 pandemic, and the microgrids in Chinatown and Chelsea been hit hard in different ways. See Chelsea, very high infection rates, and Chinatown with a lot of the anti-Asian racism and a lot of businesses being hit economically. The housing crisis has really hurt everyone, even pre-pandemic and now especially. And obviously climate change. And so we don't want any more displacement in our neighborhood. And so that's why we're excited to work together on this to prevent any more, to lower, housing or energy costs for folks, pilot a community-driven model, and also to make our communities more resilient against being displaced by climate disasters. And the Run team has been instrumental in this. They really have shared the same values with us and really have honored and valued following the community's lead on a lot of this work and listening to community voice and centering the people most impacted. They bring all their technical expertise, their passion and creativity to the project. They put in, sure, countless thousands of hours of pro bono work, and have at different points been kind of our engine to keep us going and a glue to keep us together during all these years moving this forward. And it's exciting that we are, finished the feasibility study and getting closer and closer for this being a reality. Big thank you to Jen, Fran, Jeannie, and Dave. It's been a joy getting to know all of you and working together on this. And thank you for helping making this become closer and closer to reality. I'll hand it back to you, Alex.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, it's been great to get to know you all. Agree, and it feels like we're family now. So I hope we are able to birth this thing very soon. But without further ado, we're very proud to present the Clean Water Changemaker Award to the Resilient Urban Neighborhoods team, Jen, Jeannie, Dave, and Fran, for your commitment and hard work to make the vision of community-controlled and clean energy-based microgrids a reality in Massachusetts. Jeannie, I think you're going to accept on behalf of the team.
Sure. Thank you so much for that introduction, Mark and Alex. You guys are really amazing to work with, and we appreciate you so much. Clean Water Action, we're very honored and grateful for this award. You are not only an amazing partner, you're a model for us in terms of how you work and understanding values, and it's been great getting to know you better. A little bit more history. When so I'm with Climbable, and when Dave Dayton and Frank Hemmings came to Climbable with the idea that Climbable, first of all, exists because of the complexity in the electric industry and the connection of the electric industry to climate change. If it weren't so complex, the complexity is used as a barrier many times for people to get involved. So that's why Climbable is around. Dave Dayton and Frank Hemmings came to us with this idea of taking their technical expertise and beautiful idea about having resilient power in vulnerable communities. And they wanted to partner with us. And it was clear that our role would be making microgrids understandable and something that everyone in every community could grasp onto and become involved in and understand the impacts of and figure out how that could meet the needs of the community. And so that was a great and interesting challenge. And so we said, sure, dove in both feet and all that. Met up with Alex and Green Justice Coalition, and the work just kind of flew from there. So between Dave and Fran and me and Jen, I've been doing this work for 25 years, and our collective experience is a lot more than that. And you can easily look back and see that the industry, the energy industry, has been mostly composed of white males. And I want to turn back, Mario, to one of the things you said earlier, which is the more you hear an idea, the more it takes hold. So the one of the things I'm most grateful for in this work that we've been doing with these community partners, including Clean Water Action, is that despite some of these environmental justice issues just simply not being on the radar of energy leaders, of people who are running ISO New England and people who are running the big utilities and people who are actually representing us as our public utility commissioners, these issues have not been at the forefront of their minds. I'm not talking about individuals, I mean collectively. And the people we've been working with and learning from, that message is now coming through. And I feel like we're making actual headway with, we are not going to be quiet with this work that has been ongoing in brown and black communities for decades. We're not going to be silent. And finally, I feel like these messages are being heard. So the last thing I want to say is that we are so grateful, Mark, for you, for our partners in Chinatown, Maria Belen, I don't know, I think you're still with us, our partners in Chelsea. We could not be doing this work without you. It's really, really wonderful to be alongside you. The recognition of this award is very gratifying, and we are just thankful to continue doing this work. I don't know if anyone else from our team wants to add anything, but thank you so much.
It was worth all the work just to see Alex in a tie. What a handsome guy.
Yeah. I'll trade my tie for my hair back any day, but I had a full head of hair when I started with these guys, but anyway, yeah, it's been great working with you all. Thank you so much. Jen, were you gonna add anything?
No, just thanks, guys. It's really nice to receive this award, but we wouldn't be here without you too.
Thanks so much for your partnership. It's been amazing to get to know you, and we're looking forward to making this a physical reality very soon. Back to you, Maria.
Awesome. Well, Alex, Mark, and Jeannie, Jen, and David, the whole Run team, thank you so much for your work, and thank you for reminding us that these systems are not immovable. They are able to be changed to be truly innovative, sustainable, and fair. We're getting close to the end of our show. Up next is author and poet Romeo Romero. Romeo Romero, who uses they, them pronouns, is a gender-fluid Boricua Jewish poet based in Western Massachusetts. They are the author of a full-length collection titled Descendant. When not writing, they are an educator and organizer working with young people to dismantle the school-to-prison pipeline and build strong and thriving communities. They will be sharing with us some short poems about our earth and environmental justice. Thank you, Romeo.
Hi, everyone. It's such a joy to be here with you and to get to share these poems. Water is an issue that's near and dear to my heart. My ancestral lands are in the island of Vieques, which is an island in the Caribbean off of Puerto Rico. And some of you may know the history of Vieques, but it was a site where there were many uranium leaks as part of being used as a bombing test site by the United States military. And the poems that I'm going to share with you reflect this history and a deep yearning for clean water and environmental justice. So I hope they speak to you in some way, and thank you so much for having me. One, my friend told me the owls are dying. Yesterday morning, a pregnant whale crossed over onto the shore. I wonder if we are the kind of afterlife they warned us about. I wonder how long it will take for the warm winter to boil over, for the seeds to forget their true purpose, for the land to quiver and make herself small. The scientists have now become the prophets, but no one is listening except for the children and the owls and the sea. 2, you don't own this river, said the newt to the trout, said the willow to the algae, said the salmon to the eagle, said the brown boy to the Exxon rep. You don't own this river, said the moon to the sea, said the clay to the stone, said the fern to the reed, said the grizzly to the toad, said the earth to the human, said the amoeba to the thirsty mouth. You don't own this river, said the river to herself, as the oil turned her black. 3, tonight the crickets are louder than I remember. They are screaming at the smoke in the ozone. They are singing home the spirits rising from the Amazon. On nights like this, I am reminded that there is still cruelty, that genocide is a noisy cage, and it doesn't matter how much we try to drown it with our war cries and protest songs. Tonight, what's lost is lost. The whole world knows that Mother Earth weeps. 4, the first magic I ever made was with my own 10 fingers. I drink a tonic for a similar reason, devour mangoes, write love letters, and bury my grief beneath soil and moon. I know that my ancestors have long ago become the island, that the soft clippings of nails, the exfoliation from their mangled feet, that their ashes and remains remain, and that they remain with the purpose of rebirthing the life into our lands, but their reincarnation may not be possible if the ocean were to swallow us tomorrow. 5, my gender is not fluid like a substance that has no fixed shape and yields easily to external pressure. My gender will not mold to whatever container you give it. My gender is fluid like the oceans, like too substantive to contain, too unpredictable in their weather, like they are home, the creatures that we have yet to discover, like they bring life as quickly as death, like they are too big to be just one body, like they have the power to cleanse us, like they are connected, like they are required for living things to thrive. But even they are not powerful enough to not get sick from all the crap that we've dumped in them. 6. We are a broken people who found home in an ocean called grief. The thing about that is you can't find stillness in an ocean. The waves knock you down before your feet. Remember the way the flat earth whispers steady, the way soil mimics womb. Sometimes the salt feels too thin to offer holding. Sometimes the water feels too thick not to drown. Sometimes my body feels too alone in this wake, even when you are just a stone's throw beneath. We used to wish to beach like whales, to learn to walk on the backwashed shore, to become a mirror of our oldest ancestors, the ones who left the goo that made us so they could learn fire, shelter, order. We used to wish to find a place to call our own, to become a people of some kind again. I think a better wish might be for cleaner waters and gills. 7. Before we were birthed, we knew water. It lived in our growing lungs. It kept us warm and alive. I loved water before I knew her piety, and she loved me before I knew the reason for the sacred. I pray to her more than any god. She holds for me all that I cannot bear to carry. In return, I carry her in my body and we keep each other alive. I read somewhere that there is such thing as living water and dead water, and that we have a responsibility to keep her clean and well and living, for water is life, and there are protectors across the globe giving their lives to her. If I were living in full integrity, I would be there with them. But my ocean is far and long ago diseased with uranium. I think most of my grief can trace back to that simple fact that my ocean needs healing and I may never see it through. Diaspora disrupts relationship to land, but water is everywhere and water is always moving, and the water that touches you today may return to the sky and fall down in Vieques tomorrow. No one water is the same. A river runs differently. As the rain sheds, the tides turn over on themselves every day. I too cycle through water in my body, dehydrating and rehydrating and creating myself new. Water reflects God. It reflects us. It reflects all it touches. It reflects all. When I was very sick, the water in my body drew salt to make an ocean in my belly to heal me from the inside. Perhaps we are all just sick oceans, waiting for the kind of tending that would help us become alive. Thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for those really, really beautiful words. And I just dropped Romeo's website in the chat, so you are welcome to click on that to look at more of their work. Before I introduce our next and final speaker, I do want to recognize a few other Clean Water Action rock stars who have been behind the scenes putting this event together and making sure that it runs smoothly this evening. Tonight, we have our National Director of Communications, Michael Kelly, our Massachusetts Development Associate, Julia Russell, and our Clean Water interns, Janeri Mejia and Claire Pryor. It's taken a lot of energy, creativity, and organization to shift our events along with our organizing online, and we really couldn't have done it without these folks. And we'd also like to thank our advisory board members, Brent Bazelak, Cindy Del Papa, Elijah Romulus, Ellie Goldberg, Jeremy Shank, Lee Kettleson, Lynn Nadeau, Margot Barnett, Mary Elizabeth Lampert, Sarah Moffett, Stephen Seymour, and Sue Phelan constantly for your support and your leadership. We love doing this work together with you. And now closing our program is Joan Kulash, a Merrimack Valley anti-incinerator activist, former Massachusetts Advisory Board member of Clean Water Action, and a longtime friend of Clean Water. Thank you, Joan.
Thank you, everyone. Elizabeth asked me to say a few words about why I give to Clean Water Action. And what I have to say is clearly singing to the choir with this incredible group, but I'm going to sing. Are you ready for that? However, I'm not going to be singing anywhere as beautifully as Mohammed. I took a look at Elizabeth's face and she just disappeared. She just freaked out when she heard that. So, right. And I'm not going to be reciting poetry anywhere near as beautifully as Romeo's. But what I am going to do is talk to you about how important it is for us to support this organization. And what I want to ask you to do is to envision the people in your life who mean the world to you. Maybe it's your children or a grandchild or your parents. Maybe it's a grandma or a grandfather or a pet or a favorite aunt or uncle. You know that overwhelming feeling that you get that comes over you when you just want to protect that individual more than anything from any kind of harm. How much would you give tonight to protect them from the carcinogens, the neurotoxins, the endocrine disruptors, and the climate disruptors that come from incinerators and landfills and power plants, from fracking? Now more than ever, with this current administration, we need to be extra vigilant. It is on us, guys. Under the so-called leadership of our current administration, the agencies that are supposed to be protecting our food, water, and air are instead protecting the polluters and their profits. They are denying climate change. They are turning their backs on you and your loved ones, on all of us. Think about the Wheelabrators and the Monsantos we're dealing with. Their high-priced lobbyists and executives are influencing our governing officials daily, walking the halls of the State House, whining and dining federal officials. We need to arm Clean Water Action to combat this, to speak up for you and those you love. This is only possible with your support. If you've already given, I want to ask you to consider upping it just a little. So if you gave 100, maybe an additional 50 or 25. If you gave 50, maybe an additional 10. Or consider a monthly gift to Clean Water Action or Clean Water Fund, maybe $10 a month or $100 a month. This is enabling the staff to plan ahead and to know that they can count on all of us, on you, throughout the coming year. So please give that a little extra thought. I gave, and I'm going to give a little bit of a little extra as well. Thank you, Clean Water Action, for being there and with us 100% of the time, day and night.
Thank you, Joan. And you can see our virtual program for a full list of our sponsors. If you're interested in joining them, we would love to have you, and we're so appreciative. Before we file out, let's play our game one more time for those of you that are still here, and let's see what kind of collective feelings and thoughts are happening in the room right now. If you joined late, the game is a one-word association game. You type in the chat anything you're feeling about our world and our movement environment right now, and we will see that happen in real time. Inspired, hopeful, together, love, a lot of love, absolutely. Cautious and inspired, I'm going to choose to interpret that as cautiously inspired. Inspired, motivated. All right, we're seeing a lot of optimism popping up, which makes me really happy. It's hard not to feel inspired when I get into a room together with people who really care about these things. And frankly, that's why this is my job, because it really makes my life better and it really keeps me motivated in scary times. Determined, good. Wow, I love just watching this pop up in real time. It's one of my favorite technology things I learned about. And shout out to our intern, Claire Pryor, who told us about this. So I see things, love my Clean Water family. That's so sweet. We love you too. And I'm also ready for change. We all are. So I want to take a moment to actually snapshot how we were feeling at the beginning of the event and how we're feeling now, because I think it's important. Can we see the old one? Okay, so we were still feeling determined, anxious, nervous, fired up. I was seeing a lot more, I don't want to say negative. I was seeing a lot more like fear and hard emotions before. And then if we can move up to our word cloud that we just did together. So again, I just want to drive this point home. We are better when we work together, and there is no problem that we can't take on if we get a group of people together that understand what's at stake and what we're moving towards. And so with that, I want to just say thank you so much for being those people that we get to be in community with. And thank you for your vision. Thank you for your willingness to spend an afternoon on Zoom with us. And thank you for continuing in the fight with us. As folks file out, we're going to be playing a slideshow just showing you what we were up to in the world before COVID. So hopefully you'll see some old friends and you'll see some of us hanging out in person instead of in Zoom. And once again, thank you so much to everyone who gave to this event, who attended. And please do check out our sponsorship list and considering joining. It will help us continue to do the work that we know needs to get done. Thanks, everyone. I've never had a Zoom event where people were actually still on at the very, very end. So, wow, thank you. You must really like us. Thanks so much, everyone, for coming. This was really, really fun. It really lifted my spirits today.
Yay, great job. Thank you.